Hey guys, what's up? This is Ed here, and so I'm back with talking, and I want to talk about the playoffs as what about what is happening. I know I haven't been here for the past few days or weeks, I think, but I'm back here right now, and I'm going to talk about the playoffs. So the first surprising thing for me is how the Nuggets got swept. That's your MVP right there. I mean, he played well in the regular season, but I think. Um, the true MVP is the one that really shows up throughout the whole season and the playoffs right here. I think that's what the MVP should be, not just the regular season. Same thing goes to the defensive player of the year. Or I don't think rookie of the year would necessarily fit because not all teams are going to be in the playoffs, right? So I think rookie of the year could just be the regular season thing, but I think MVP and defensive player of the year, I think they should be. I think the playoffs should be taken into account. And your MVP, Jokic, really disappeared in the fourth game. He got ejected. Now, I don't think that should have been a flagrant foul, but I think he should have tried to keep his emotions in check because he knew that if he got ejected or if he did something that could warrant an ejection or put him in serious trouble, then his team would lose. And despite the Nuggets fighting, right, they didn't have a chance. Chris Paul looked like his young self again. He drank the his whatever his secret bottle is or the secret stuff, and he got 35 points. And the surprising thing was he didn't even take a single three. I think um, he's had a really huge impact on this team, even when he was playing on his injured shoulder in the Lakers series. I think he has had a leadership impact on on this team right here, and it helps to have a Jay Crowder on your team who, like, for some reason, I think every team Jay Crowder has been on with except for the Dallas Mavericks, that team has been to the conference finals at least once. He's not a star player. He's a really good role player, streaky three-point shooter, but he's very serviceable. I think that really helped. And Booker being Booker right here, he's made for this moment. That's what he's really shown. Is that he's really made for this moment and that the first few years in Phoenix, his time over there was being really wasted and I think he wanted to show that um in this postseason right here that you know I can be a big time player and I am going to be a big time player. That's what he has really shown throughout these playoffs. On the Nuggets side of things, Jokic was the only one that was performing well, but other guys like Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, I haven't heard his name in a long time after he got traded to the Magic, to the Nuggets from the Magic. Um, it seems like those guys have vanished in the playoffs. I'm gonna be honest with you, because Aaron Gordon did not step up throughout this whole series. Um, and Michael Porter Jr. did not step up either. It doesn't help when your second star, Jamal Murray, was out for the whole season after that painful injury. And guys like Monte Morris also didn't really help. Austin Rivers at one point, I think he was the more impactful player in the series in the series for the Nuggets, and that doesn't really help right here. When I saw JaVale McGee get into the game in Game Four, I knew that something was going to be wrong. I know that the Nuggets are going to fight, but it's just that it's not going to result in a win for them. That's the problem right there. Now, hopefully, next season, I think Jamal Murray will probably get healthy, but I don't think he will be there for most of the season. I think maybe he will return in the late part of the season. It's going to be really interesting to see how the Nuggets play the next season. Um, yeah, And obviously, congrats to the Suns. They deserve this. They outplayed the Nuggets in every way. Chris Paul looked like his young self. Devin Booker did his thing. DeAndre Ayton, right? He looked like he was the first pick material, right? Obviously, he's the center, and centers nowadays don't really necessarily get a lot of touches, with the exception of being if you're Jokic or Vucevic or someone like that, right? He's the type of center who really depends on a good point guard or a good scorer that attracts a lot of attention. Moving on to the Hawks and 76ers series, I think 76ers will win the series, maybe in game 6 or game 7, but game 4 was so fun to see because Trey Young had a really off night. He was 8 of 26. But the way that the 76ers came back, they looked like they were the veteran team out there. And they're one of the younger teams. But Lou Williams, Bogdanovich, yeah, they helped lead the comeback right here. Trey Young was dishing it all over the court. He had 18 assists. He played more like a true point guard than the guy who shoots a lot of shots. And I know he shot 26 shots, but he had to shoot 26 shots right here. But even then, he still played like a true point guard. He was dishing it to John Collins, Clint Capella, Bogdanovich, Lou Williams. He was dishing it to everyone. I didn't watch the full game. I watched like the last few minutes of the game when the game got really interesting. And Embiid had a really tough game, and I know it's a lot of it is due to the meniscus. But keep in mind, he was averaging 35 points and 10 rebounds in the first 3 games of the series. So when he had his first 4 game, now you guys can blame it on the meniscus. Where was this throughout the whole series? Hold on. I just I guess you guys have been talking about the meniscus injury throughout this whole series and how he has been dominant. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I expected dominance from him in this game 4 right here, and he didn't really show it. And Ben Simmons now not being necessarily the offensive factor that he was in the past few years, that didn't really help. Seth Curry, I think he should deserve more recognition because of the way that he's playing, the offense that he's providing. I think Shake Milton has kind of started to show his true playoff form. Not true playoff form. I think he's really been productive. I'm not going to say this is his true playoff form. I'm going to say he has been really productive in the series. Same thing goes for Furkan Korkmaz. Um, Tobias Harris, really underrated this whole season. I don't know why he was not an all-star. I think he should have been, but he's been really productive throughout these whole playoffs right here, and that has really helped them. Now moving on to the Bucks and Nets series. When the Nets won the first 2 games, I thought this series was over because, well, I mean, no Harden, right? And then it was Kyrie and Durant, and maybe say Joe Harris, Jeff Green, right? Joe Harris and Jeff Green are kind of inconsistent. That's what I'm gonna say. And the Bucks have, Chris Middleton and Giannis and Drew Holiday, and Drew Holiday did not play like the guy who deserved a $160 million contract, nor did Chris Middleton play to his full potential in those first 2 games. It was really Giannis, but he also really struggled. And what is really embarrassing is he's had two 10-second violations in these playoffs right here, and I think it's psychological more than the actual motions because sometimes his motions are fluid, sometimes they're not. He's overthinking too much. I think that's what is holding him back the most. Is the fact that I think he doesn't want to shoot those free throws, but he has to shoot them at times. And and it's apparent. Sometimes they're hacking him. Sometimes they're not letting him do whatever he wants. Right? The defenders don't let him do whatever he wants, and I think he doesn't want to be at the free throw line as much, and that's fine. But then games 3 and games 4 really showed why this Bucks team could perhaps push it to 7 and maybe win game 7. And I understand James Harden wasn't there. Kyrie was out for game 4. But injuries are a part of the playoffs. They are. That's the sad reality of it, but you can't just blame those two losses on not having your stars or the injuries that your stars have dealt with. That it doesn't matter. The record doesn't show that, right? It shows as 2-2. Now it's 3-2 because KD had a virtuoso performance. He had maybe the best performance of his career, but to those guys that were saying that, oh, we didn't have Harden, we didn't have Kyrie, it doesn't matter. The record shows that you guys have two losses. It doesn't matter who's out there and who's not out there. At the end of the day, they lost 2 games. Now, I think Game 6 is going to be quite a fun game. I think Bucks might win Game 6. Might. If everything goes right. If Chris Middleton puts up 30 plus. If Giannis does his thing. Puts up maybe like 28 points, 15 rebounds, 3 assists. And Jrue Holiday really shows up. And if PJ Tucker guards Kevin Durant the way that he did in Game 3 and Game 4. Yeah, I think that's what my take is on this series. If Chris Middleton and Giannis do their thing, I can see the Bucks winning the series. However, if KD does what he did in Game 5, I think the Nets will move on. And if Jeff Green hits 7 threes, I think that really helps. And I think Harden was really forced to come back after Kyrie got injured. And that's kind of a good sign for the Nets, and not necessarily, but it's also a really bad sign for the Nets because what happens if he gets injured again? He's out for the playoffs, not just the series, the playoffs. And I hope he doesn't get injured. I hope that both teams play injury free. But he did seem to have an impact on the court. In other ways, he got 6 rebounds, 8 assists. He seemed to be moving the ball around where he lacked in scoring. I guess he deferred to Durant, right? He said that Durant's got it going. Give him the ball. Now I really wanted KD to get 50, but he missed the one of the final free throws. But he got the win. They got the win, and you move on. Shout out to his 10 assists and 17 rebounds. All of them were defensive rebounds. But I never really expected Durant to get a triple double in the playoffs. But I mean, he was asked to show out, and he showed out every way that he can. Now let's talk about. Let me see what other series I could talk about right here. So, oh yeah, the Jazz and the Clippers. I swear the Clippers play really well when they're down 0-2 now. I don't know what's up with them. It's good at face value, but it's also really bad because what happens if they lose the game 3? No team has ever come back from a 0-3 deficit. So while the Clippers might enjoy these 2 wins that they got, and the Clipper fans enjoy these 2 wins, just imagine what happens if they lost game 3. Then your season is practically over. Now, I think Kawhi might have left the Clippers because of the fact that they would have lost the series. But now I think the series will go to Game 7. Donovan Mitchell has been playing out of his mind, but the rest of the team did not really play up to their standards. Now, at face value, it seems like, oh, they all really had good games. Problem is, they didn't get enough stops. Paul George had 31 points. Kawhi had 20. No, sorry, Kawhi had 31 as well. Marcus Morris Sr., who is struggling in these playoffs right here, had 24 points. So if you can't stop those three guys, then you're in trouble. And no other guy was in double figures for the Clippers, just so you know. For the Jazz, it was Bogdanovich, Bojan Bogdanovich with 18, Rudy with 11 points and 8 rebounds, Joe Ingles with 19, and Donovan, although he took 26 shots, he had 37 points. That theoretically should get you the win, but that didn't because, well, the Clippers had they had a lot of shot attempts right here. I think they had more free throws right here. They had 38 free throws to the Jazz 26 attempts. That certainly could explain why they lost, along with the fact that the Jazz didn't get enough scoring punch off the bench. Jordan Clarkson, their main their main guy, six man of the year, their main guy off the bench, 3 of 12, 2 of 8 from three. He didn't show up. Derek Favors got posterized by Kawhi. And when that happened, I think the Clippers got a lot of momentum. And a lot of players didn't even score for them. Matt Thomas, the Forest guy, Oni guy, George Niang. Guys that you kind of expect to show up in these playoffs didn't really do that. That's kind of disappointing if you're a Jazz fan. As a Jazz fan or a Clippers fan, if you're a fan of either team, you really want your team to win Game 5 and take control of the series. And if you're a fan of the team that lost Game 5, you really want to hope that they force Game 6 and make games and perhaps force Game 7 and try to win the series over there. I know this has been a topic for many years now. The lead GM, right? LeBron being the GM. And I get it. It's frustrating. It breaks the balance of the NBA. But let me ask you this. If you had the stardom and power that LeBron has, wouldn't you do the same thing? Wouldn't you try to acquire more star power? And if anything, I think Anthony Davis wanted to play with LeBron, right? A star player wanting to play with another star player, right? Doesn't that really show how good LeBron is that he's willing to attract other star players to play for his team? Doesn't that show that he's that good of a player? I'm just giving you my 2 cents on Le GM. All right. If you like this video, go ahead and click the like button, share my videos with others, subscribe to my channel, and comment down your views about this. Until then, I'll see you next time.